Hi, last time we talked about how I was able to deploy Jitsi Meet on this domain start free dev meeting.startfreedev.ml, and on the top level domain startfreedev.ml I was able to create this sort of front end which would utilize or create the token for us to be able to create the meeting. On the Jitsi Meet, I enable the token authentication using JWT token, and on the front end, this will create the JWT token and use the user's information to create a valid token and start a meeting. Now, I will show you how I was able to set this up, how I was able to set up the Jitsi Meet, and then how to enable the token authentication. So let's start. So let me just clear this. So my server, let me see, this is the IP address of the server. So let me just change that. I'm gonna SSH into the server. Alright, I'm in. So on the server, what we need to do first is to make sure that the top level domain is set up. We're gonna use this to create like a, um, a placeholder front end that you can use any way you want, but the goal is to have this be set up to be available for other things, and the subdomain meeting, or in this case jitsi.startfreedev.ga, will be used for the actual Jitsi Meet. So for that, we're gonna be starting by installing nginx. So let me close this one, and let's go here. So let's install nginx. So now that it's installed, we're going to create a config folder where it's gonna house our HTML for the front end. And then let me see. So what I'm doing right now is basically just creating plain HTML that would allow us to test if our setup for the top level domain is working. So now that it is installed, we're going to create a server block for our nginx configuration. So let me create that. I have here preset of the server block that we're going to be using. Okay, I think that's good. Next, we are going to symlink that server block to from sites available to sites enable, and that way our nginx web server will be able to know that this server block will be enabled. And then we are also going to remove the default server block that was created when the nginx was installed. Now we're going to test if all our settings are correct. So we can do that by issuing the command sudo nginx -t, and what it does, it would read through the configuration for our server blocks, and from there it would check if there are misconfiguration that we need to check. So far everything's looking good. We're able to get okay on the configuration. So that's the next step what we're going to do. We're going to set up SSL using certboot for nginx. So I'm gonna add its repository, and then I'm going to install the certboot. Now that's done, we're going to run the cert bot for nginx, and we're going to list all the domains and subdomains that we want the SSL certificate to be registered. So for that, this is what we're going to run. So just follow the prompt, and you can select no for their newsletter. So right now what it's doing is what does it say? It says unable to install the certificate. This one is working. This one is not. Why is it? So this one has the server name, and okay, that one is working. Okay, so this time it was it did take that. So what we would like to happen is to redirect all HTTPS requests to our website. So we can just select option 2 and it says we're done. If we open back our server block, you can see that it added the server certificate here. Right. Now for this we're going to test it first. Let me see. So this one should work now. Yeah, this one's working. And let me see. This one should point to the same server as well. Okay. Take a look at the certificate. You can see that it was given the certificate name by Let's Encrypt, and this is a valid SSL certificate. So the next step is to clean up our server block. Since we are going to be using this on a different server block, we're gonna remove it from the server name. This part here, these are the SSL certificate. We are going to be using this on our installation of Jitsi Meet. So we're gonna just copy it. So I think I already have a copy here. Right. And also we're going to remove this portion here. Okay, and then save it. Alright. So once it's done, we are going to proceed with installing Jitsi Meet tokens. So for that, we are going to follow the steps highlighted by this guide. So this is almost automated. So let me just copy that, and yeah, I don't like it to restart automatically. I would like to have it restart later. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to log in as root, and that way I don't have to keep typing in sudo all the time. And from here I'm going to create a file with all the commands that was listed. So I'm just going to say nano jits let me see, install .sh, and I'm going to paste all that command here and save it. So all I need to do is I'm gonna run it using the shell. So sh and then the file install.sh, and then what this will do is it would read through the entire file and execute the commands one by one until all the commands are completed. So that way we will not need to manually install each of the or type in each of the commands there. It can be done automatically. Okay, let me just pause the video and continue it once the process is done. Alright, now that the process is done, we just clear that out. So what happened earlier is that it run all these commands. Basically what this does is to prepare our backend server for processing. This is what handles the XMPP configuration and connection, which is needed for the Jitsi Meet. So and also manually install these Lua packages that is needed for the token on Jitsi to work. So now that that's already set, I'm gonna reboot the machine and I'll continue from there. Okay, now that the reboot is completed, we're gonna proceed with the next steps of the installation. So the next step is to actually install Jitsi Meet together with the token. So for this, we would need to be ready for our host name, the app ID, and the app key that we'll be using for the token authentication. So for this one, I have this generated this characters and key for our app ID and the app key to be used by the token. So we'll be using that. Let me just like earlier, I'm gonna copy this sets commands. So let me just do this. So again, we're logging in as root, and I'm going to create a file. This time I'm going to name it jitsi.sh and paste the commands here and then save it. So again, you can run the command by typing sh and the file that we created. So right now it's installing all the packages, all the remaining packages for the Jitsi Meet to work. So it's downloading Java, Jikofu, the actual Jitsi Meet front end, Jitsi Meet procedure, which would connect our Jitsi. Now it's asking it for the hostname for the Jitsi package. So what we are using for this installation is this one. Start with Jitsi dot and then our domain, and just click OK. And now it's going to ask for the certificate. Since we already created a certificate for our top level domain, we're going to be using that. It's going to continue with the configuration, and later it would ask us for the location of the SSL certificate. So earlier we saved it, this one. This is the SSL certificate and this is the key. So we're just gonna copy this and paste it when they would ask for it. So here, so it's now asking us for the SSL key on the server. This is our SSL key. We'll copy it, remove the file here, and then paste it, then OK. Next, it would ask for the certificate. So we have that. This is the first one. Paste it. And okay. So what it does is it would manually add the server block that would allow SSL to work on our deployment, just like what the certbot did on our top level domain server block. It would add that on the configuration for the Jitsi Meet deployment. Right now, it's asking us for the application ID for our token. So we have that same. This is the application ID. Just copy and paste it, and the application secret or key, same thing. We're going to save it. Okay. So now that's done, our next step is to check if our Jitsi Meet is working. So this is our domain. At this point, it should give us the Jitsi Meet deployment. So at this time, this deployment is actually working, but it does not use the token yet. So if we're going to use this meeting ID called Apple Stop Wellness, it would allow us to create a meeting. As you can see, it's able to create a meeting without being asked for a token or anything like that. So it's not yet secure. So what we can do at this point, if we don't want to do any settings, this is similar to the default implementation of Jitsi. You can just put in password for security and let the participants join in and use the password for authentication. But we wanted to use the token, so we're just gonna end this here, and then what we're going to do is continue with this. So we can skip this part since we already installed the certificate earlier, and as you can see, it's already running. It has a valid certificate. Okay. And next is to open ports. It can be done differently, but for my server, I would need to open the ports on the server portal. So let me see here. This is the server, and I'm gonna go to the network for the ports. So right now, I already have the HTTP and HTTPS ports open. So and our SSH is open as well. So I just need these remaining ports to be open. Okay, so let me just open that quickly. 4443 inbound TCP. Alright, the next is 5222. TCP as well. Next is 5347. Again, TCP. And lastly, UDP ports from 10,000 to 20,000. Where's that? Here. So UDP, port range, and that should be done. Another trick that I've learned for the server to work better is to manually add the IP address of the server to the hostname. So the local hostname, this one. So I just put in the IP address and domain or the hostname that it's gonna be using. So it's gonna be Jitsi start free dev.ga. Yeah. Save it. And then we're gonna continue with the other set of configuration. So we're going to edit the velocity settings first, and then under admins we're gonna copy and paste these. Then we have to change this C2S encryption. So this is, change it to false, and make sure that the rest of the settings is included. So we're gonna change this to save. Next we're going to enable the plugin manually. So let me see. Our domain is Jitsi. So this one is optional if you want to restrict your token to just your specific audiences and issuers. By default on the backend, this is allowed for all audiences and issuers. So this is very important for authentication. For easier setup, we just don't set anything specific. That means that we will accept all sources of token as long as the token is validated correctly. So after that, yeah, we can skip this. Next we are going to change the authentication to token, and then we're going to set the application ID and the application secret. Okay, let me get the ID. Where's the ID here? So there's the ID. The app secret. And then we need to make sure that the presence identity is working, or added as the modules enabled for this config. So let me just copy this and also enable the token verification. Right. Last is we're going to set a guest domain. So what this does is it would allow participants to join in without the token, as long as the host is already on the meeting. It's already started the meeting, so you can invite other participants even if they don't have token to join your meeting, as long as you already started the meeting yourself. So it's going to be similar to the settings with few changes. So I'm just gonna copy that, put it here, paste it here. So this is for the guest link, and a few additional settings that is required. So we're just gonna add it here at the bottom. And make sure that their format is the same. Okay, yeah, I think that's it for this settings. We're gonna save it. And next is to enable the guest domain on our Jitsi config. This is our guest or anonymous domain. So we're just going to copy this and then put in guest here. And also we're going to enable roles based on token. What this does is it enables what this does is it enables roles on the meeting. That means that only those token will be declared as moderator. Other participants are regular participants. They cannot kick anyone. They cannot do more advanced control over the meeting. So that's what this does. Next, we're going to add these settings to the Jitsi settings here. So just leave whatever is in there and then copy this and edit the domain or the hostname. So we're just gonna erase this and use our domain for it. Copy, paste, and save. Next is our config for Jitsi. So all we need to do here is copy the hostname to the Jitsi host. And we'll do the same for the video bridge. Also add autobind empty and okay. So at this point we're all set. We just need to restart all the servers and test. So let's see here. And we should be able to access the meeting. Now let's try to access the meeting just like we did earlier. So we'll attempt to connect this to the meeting, but since we did not issue a valid token, it will not allow us to log in. Now, how do we know that the token is working? We can do that by going to gwt.io and create a token test here. So let me just go to the Jitsi token, this one. So they have a sample payload here. We're just going to copy the payload and place it here and do some minor editing. So we don't need the ID, we don't need the group, and we don't need an expiration. So we'll need the room name. This is the room name. Put in the room name. If it's just star, that means that this token will be valid for all names. So ISS is going to be the app ID that we created earlier. So this one. And then the audience, since we set it to anything, yeah, we can just set it to let's see, this one. And this is also our sub or our domain. Lastly, we need to have our app secret to generate a valid token. So yeah, with this we can use this token to start the meeting. So JWT equals the token, and then would reconnect, and yeah, there we go. It allows us to log into the meeting with the valid token, and also set us as the moderator. Alright. Additional thing is that it also gave us this information, email and the name. So if you can see here, it set those information to our profile. Where's that profile? Let me see here. If you go to the, yeah, it no longer has the settings for us. That means that our name is already set on the profile. Here. Okay. Just like what I did with the other side, you can create any front end and that would generate a valid token, and then you can use that token to redirect the meeting host here, and the other participants can just join with the regular link. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.